Good morning. I'm sitting here a little shell shocked, very tired for a lot of different reasons, and just so glad you're tuning in to kind of catch up on what's going on. It's been a little intense, I will have to say. A little intense is a mild statement. So, what I've been learning over this last week is that these topics I bring up in the video are not random. They're almost like I was imagining them like a spider web. Like, here's an anchor point of a solar flare. Here's what's going on with the coronal hole. Here's what's going on with the astrology. Here's what's going on with the news. Here's what you might be experiencing. And then we sort of start to weave these together. So there's so many to talk about today. And I'm on very little sleep because I have two daughters who delivered a baby each 3 days apart. And grandma's feeling a little stretched. And so happy and so tired. So I'm just happy to be here and to go through this with you. Okay. So first and foremost, it's been a big week. And I say that without any exaggeration, sort of looking at what are all the pieces. So the first piece I want to start with is that within the solar flares, again, we've been let's turn it around the right side. We've been hanging out in these C2 to M1s, and C1 or C2, I mean, they're like, oh, that's just so low. And then on Friday the 28th at 9:32 a.m. Mountain Standard Time, we had an X1.1 that just came in out of nowhere, just like, boom. Now, I wouldn't say it was exactly out of nowhere because we have this coronal hole. And if you can see this spot right over here, I was listening to Stephen Burns. And if you haven't found him, I would highly suggest that you go look him up on YouTube, because what he's been able to do is explain what these coronal holes do, how they affect us. And then he sort of looks at it from a geomagnetic, what's going on Earth perspective. So what he's talking about is that there's this huge hole right here that blew a flare out that wasn't directly aimed at Earth. And the impact of that flare has already created a G2 geomagnetic storm. We've already been experiencing, as it's been rotating from here over to here, an enormous amount of, what do I want to say? As the sun has been rotating, or we've been rotating around it, whichever, right? What we've been experiencing is an enormous amount of solar winds. So we may not have these flares, but we have these winds that are just making our ears ring. They're making our bodies dehydrate. Our indigestion is just all over the place. So we're having all of these impacts. So go look at Stephen Burns and check him out on that. And then, of course, I track Pam Youngins and spaceweather.com for all of my solar flare stuff. So, we were just sort of bouncing around here and getting up to about a M, what is that? An M4? Wasn't really that big. And then boom, out here comes this huge X1. So you can see there was a little bit of a rumbling the week before that said maybe something is coming, but then it dropped way down again. And I was like, wow, that just came out of nowhere. So let's just mark that one, that within the solar flares, it was a little bumpy. And then the second thing was that coronal hole that we've been talking about here, per Stephen Burns, is also causing earthquakes. It's, and you can go look at all of the things that are a result of these huge bursts coming towards Earth of energy. So it would make sense that we are feeling them, right? It would make sense. Okay. So the second thing is that Mercury went retrograde in Aries on the 28th. So on the 28th, we had this X flare, but we also had Mercury going retrograde. Now everybody's like, Mercury, when it goes retrograde, your electronics, your communication shuts down. It's also in Aries, so it has a lot of fire. And so what it's saying is like, maybe just pull back and enjoy maybe putting things down for a little while. Put some screens down. Maybe you've been watching a lot. Maybe your anxiety's up. So just pull that back. And I go to Madrona Pulse when it comes to eclipses and Mercury retrogrades and Venus retrograde and all of that stuff, because on YouTube, her voice is very soothing. She's hard to track if you're not used to that kind of calm voice, right? And she just gives us a lot of information that this is a period to create sort of with Aries in Mercury retrograde, is pull back and create a new understanding. Okay, so that was happening, and if Mercury's affect you, then you know that that was there. Now, the two bigger pieces that I want to put out there is number one, the eclipse on the 29th, which was yesterday. Yesterday? Yeah, yesterday. Oh my God, my timing. So we had a new moon and we had a partial solar eclipse on that. Now, the first lunar eclipse was on the 13th through the 14th of March. And then we had this 2-week period and everybody was like, boom. And we've talked about this. You can go back and look at my previous videos. And it was like, whoa, there is this anxiety, this like being stretched, having things falling off of you and thinking, what the heck is this solar eclipse, partial solar eclipse going to bring? And I think it started at Mountain Standard Time or Mountain Daylight Time, was like 2:50 in the morning, peaked around 4:40, and then was over by about 6:40, 6:50, somewhere in there. So it was in the middle of the night for us here in the mountains. And I was wide awake from 3 to 6. It seemed like I had been plugged in and there was this electric current going through my body. And all I could think of was just like, as the as the moon is pulling off on the sun, just start throwing things in like you would at back of a pickup that, it's going to the dump. I don't want that anymore. Take that, take that, take that. Because I want to be ready in the morning when this new moon comes, right? So I get up in the morning and it's Saturday, the 29th, with this new moon in Aries. Now, for those of you who know me, I have been doing a new moon chart for 7 years now. So I take cards and I do like a heart of the matter and a crossing card, and then here's the new moon all the way around to the full moon all the way up. And so you pick a card for all of that. Just drop me a message and let me know if you want that. Or I post it also on my Patreon for my membership. So come on over there if you want to do moons and we can start talking about moons, right? So here is the way we probably felt during this eclipse, during this new moon, during this Mercury retrograde with this coronal hole, right? Makes sense. And there's this exhaustion, which is these mechanisms that I'm trying to move around are just not working anymore. And I like the idea that this is in fire, because this is a lot of what Aries is bringing to us. Now, make no mistake that when Aries comes in, it kind of bursts in, because this is always this sort of symbol. This is the Osho Zen version of the emperor. And, not only is he carrying the flame, and he's got this sort of Scottish tartan, like warrior spirit, but he's breaking the chains of the things that have held him, and he's moving forward, with an eagle on his shoulder, and a golden eagle. And I love this idea for this Aries season, the Aries eclipse, the Neptune moving into Aries. So I want to come back to this card. Okay. So the biggest thing is that we've been talking for weeks and weeks about this Neptune at 29 degrees in Aries. Now, you don't have to know astrology as much as you just have to feel like your emotions are being dredged up from underneath. Some clients are crying, some clients are angry, some clients are feeling very reminiscent, and we've been doing a deep dive. Now, this started April 4th, 2011. So what I'm going to say is, like, between 2011 till now, we've been deepening our sensitivities, our intuition, our dreams, our belief in mysticism, our illusions, our ability to know what's real and what's not real, to be able to understand that dream state. And so we've been in sort of a melting pot, we're all one. Pisces, right? We're in this collective and we're releasing structures right here that no longer serve us. So we're being divinely, sort of read. And at the same time, we're just breaking all of these things. And it started with, 2020, when we had the opportunity to work at home and do reevaluate our job structures and release all the rigidities that had been sort of keeping us down. So this 29 degrees was really opening up this and saying, are you this? And is this your mastery? And this morning at 6:01 a.m., Neptune shifted into Aries for the next 14 years. And it hasn't been there in 164 and a half, almost 65 years. So you can go back and look at all of the significant things that happened in 1861 and 62 and like go, oh, wow, this is huge. I'm feeling something that I couldn't put my finger on. The web, let's go back to that anchor up here. That web is shaking and I don't understand why I'm so out of sorts. Now, when we go to Aries, right? When we go into this, which is the individual, the sense of self, that reshaping, that assertiveness, right? We're learning how to bring both this internal awareness, and I kept the priestess out, and this internal awareness. So we're carrying this forward. And I love to use the cards as image and storytelling, because when I look at, I don't know how to hold these three. I'm just going to do it like this. And I'm going to put him on top, because this is now Aries bringing this vibration, sensitivity skill set. And this is how the light seer sees it. Now, the image came up for me this morning when I was looking at this, which was really different. This individual moving the chariot, the balance between masculine and feminine, he's up there on top, and you can see he's almost like he's enjoying the ride. He doesn't have any reins, and he's trusting it. And I was thinking about how the belief in our AI and our like what happens when we partner with different intelligences. And I was thinking of how within Star Wars and within many of the what do I want to say, galactic based movies, that there's a partnership between the person and the vehicle, and you're moving your vehicle forward. Now, this is the field. Your whole field is intuitively moving forward. And now we're moving it forward with that Aries energy, right? Which is, awareness in action, leaning into the internal and going forward. Okay. So, I encourage you to go look at Astro Butterfly and do your own research, because this is mine just putting these little points out here and saying, this is what I'm thinking is rattling your web right now, right? My astrologer, Deb O'Connor, says this is the time when we need to have the courage to respond rather than react. So we're using these two together, which is I understand what's going on and I'm putting action with it. So as a new grandmother with an infant and a daughter who's just home from the hospital, it's like, how do I do action and hold calmness so that everybody can stay in that sort of peaceful place, especially this little tiny baby of mine, little grandson of mine. Okay. So I'm going to put a couple other things on there. Buckle up, buttercups. Here we go. Because if we do this web, there's 2 or 3 other spots that I want to put on there, and then I want to go through tips. Okay. Number 1, we are redefining who we are in the world, individually, collectively, as nations, as global, strategies. We're redefining and we're pulling into ourselves, and there's tensions and there's blames and there's finger pointing. And we see it in the country over the recent election. We see it over these policies. We see it over, the news. And it gets to the point where I don't even want to turn on my YouTube or anybody talking, because they're like, nah, 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 and then nah, 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 nah. And I'm like, I don't want to listen to somebody using derogatory terms on another party, person, strategy, anything, because to me, it shows us just how out of balance we are, right? And so just know that our world is in turmoil right now. And there's another piece that's coming out. And we've seen it with the JFK. We've seen it with the Epstein and the Diddy stuff, is that we are beginning to realize, and it may be like this, like, oh no, we're beginning to realize that we live in a world that uses manipulation and blackmail to control, which means that there's somebody else up here pulling strings that says, I've got dirt on you. And if you don't do what I want, then I will release this dirt. So the strategy isn't that they use the dirt, it's that they create dirt so that they can turn around and use it. Now, we aren't used to really actually talking about that and facing it head on. And as a coach who's worked within very toxic, dysfunctional family systems, the family can't heal, and the student who's in program can't really feel like they have a voice until some of that dirt that's been hidden comes out. So we know that that's going to start coming out. So just know that we are in this like world of blackmail, and watch who's being pressured, who's bringing it out, and what happens now when this information comes out. I think that's it. That is on the web for right now. I think that that's the last thing I really wanted to talk about there. I guess what we want to do is we want to hold on to this massive invisible these massive invisible energies that are making us physically ill, emotionally distraught, sort of churning in our heads, trying to figure it out, and we're watching physical things falling apart around us, right? And we want to pick them up one at a time, and we want to look at them and say, what information is here, and how do I use the tools that I've accumulated over the last 14 years to do that? So I've got 6 tips for you. And before I go there, I would like to invite you to come join my Patreon. It's lovely. It's a group that I post all of these articles that I'm reading so that we can find them. And then other members post what they're reading, and so we can share. And then the second thing is that, I'm shifting myself. I'm watching this sort of, where is he? This guy coming forward and going like, I have been my double Pisces, right? On the couch, really feeling into everything. And now it's like, what do I want to do? And I noticed that what I really like doing is doing these calls where we scatter things out and we look at clarity. We look at what support you have, what tools have you been using? And we can do this on a one-on-one, or we can do this in a package, or we can do this with tarot. There's links down below for how you might want to contact me and let me be a support system for you, so that you can support yourself. Right? Okay. So number 1, take inventory of all of the levels of things that you've learned, right? Over the last 14 years, over the last 2 years, over the last 2 months, right? So is this what levels of sensitivities do you actually have? What clairs work? What personal insights come to you, and how do you uncover them and trust them within yourself? And watch and sort of list them out. Like I know at my core that I am a clairvoyant. I see things. I'm a claircognizant. I know things that I can't explain to anybody. And when I come across someone who's very material based, they're like, well, where did you read that? And who are you going to cite? And I'm like, I don't know if it's been said before. I don't care if it's been said before. This is what I'm experiencing right now. And it may be a new flavor or a different perspective. So we're sort of cutting away from that. So then using those tools, that whatever their clairs are, whatever the muscle testing, whatever tools you use to work with yourselves, make an inventory of the level of what you've learned and what you're doing, right? Number 1. Number 2, build your awareness around this Aries energy, which is about directness. It's about being driven by instinct. It's about action. It's about internal power, the sense of self, the I am, right? It's that fire and that flame, because it's the first sign in the zodiac that's with fire. And fire is passion, and it's creativity, and it's a desire to move forward. So build your awareness of that. Like maybe you're just a little restless. Maybe you've got lots of plans and ideas and you haven't known what to do. And for the first time in weeks or months or years, you feel like you have some movement going and it's time to go do something, right? So change, assess with a smile, and just go. Number 3, now blend these 2 top things together, right? So we're going to take that desire and that movement forward, and we're going to carry with it all of our internal sensitivities and clairs and wisdoms that we've learned over the last 14 years. So we're going to partner and sort of pull these forward, and we could even put it like this. Like, I want you to take this forward using both the Aries sort of momentum and the wisdom inside there, because what we want to do is we want to take those tools and skills, and with patience and with action. We want to go right straight after what we want, because now's when we reshape our careers, our relationships, our sense of body and self and health, and what we desire to do, and we initiate that, right? So the word for number 3 is initiate, and keep that in those skills going, right? Number 4, being mindful of how you can take what you can take, drop, or pack away. How often do you do that? Do you compartmentalize? Like, what I see a lot is that people want to talk about this in September, October, November, December, when it's cold, when it's wintry, when they're internal. The second that the sun comes up, they're like, "Wow, I'm out there and I just need to put this on the back shelf. I don't touch my cards in the summer. I don't really work with my intuition." And are you want someone who like doesn't know how to bring the two of them together and keep them? Because what we're doing is action is alluring after a season of inaction, and our intuition and our wisdom is that self-awareness that's so important to be able to make conscious choices, choices that aren't reactive and aren't compartmentalized, right? So what we're doing is we're going like, wow, there's chaos outside there. There's all this energy. There's these symptoms I'm having. There's this desire to just get out in the sun and play and forget about it. And what we want to do is we want to say, we don't want to forget about it. We want to bring it all together. We want to keep integrating and not compartmentalize. So number 4 would be like really be aware of where we compartmentalize and put things on a shelf that we don't want to. All right. Number 5, use your new energy in your flame to research, to continue to uncover ways that we've been led. Look at these like ways that we have been milked and blackmailed and manipulated into doing things, whether it's food, whether it's the way we take care of our body, the way we make money, what we do with our money. And watch for the secrets as they're being revealed, because it's going to get really interesting. It has only just started. And as these reveals are coming out, we now have this fire warrior energy to kind of come at it and do something different. And then number 6, of course, is to have compassion, because this is probably the hardest period of time we've been through. We're transitioning from internal to external, and we have an enormous amount of external, invisible, intangible stressors on our body. So we want to still take care of ourselves, and we want to watch and have compassion for people who don't know how or are learning to. So thank you. Make sure you like and subscribe. Come join my Patreon. And if not, I will see you next Sunday. Take care. Bye-bye.